Well, good morning, everybody. We just cleaned up and spun her around. I got to figure out the height I need her for the rear end removal. It'll work back there safely and secure. But right now we're going to do that overview that we were talking about. These have got to hit the bench later today. I got to clean the tubes back up. I got some little repairs that I have to make and get everything all shined back up and let him go after it with the MIG. So let's move on. Radiator sits exactly 1 inch in. You can see where it clears everything. I can't put that bar up in until the new radiator's in, because the fitting sits directly underneath the bar. Someone says you can cut the tray. Yes, I can cut the tray, but then I will trade that problem for this problem where the hood release will be rubbing into the radiator. So I'm not going to fix something now to cause a problem later. Let's start with the underneath. At least it's halfway decent out here. It's like 76 already at 8 o'clock in the morning. These are some pretty good springs. They were a little rough to, how would you put it, install, compress in place. But we got, we got all the new bushings, new trunnions, all the key stuff in there, poly bushings. The next issue was the steering. We got the new tie rod ends. We put the new boots on it. They were weather worn pretty good. You can see the close proximity of the engine to the rack. You got 3/4 inch down here. You got a good inch up here, and the back lip back here you got 1/4. That's the best I could do to keep the engine as low. Now the next thing is ground clearance. That's the transmission pan. This is the oil pan I put in. So we are looking good for ground clearance. Basically, when I bolt the sway bar in with the radiator, the front end will be totally rebuilt. I went ahead and preloaded the pads in the calipers just to get them off the bench and out of the way. They're not compressed to the rotors yet. They won't be till the lines go on and we start bleeding and putting pressure on them. Now, to gain what we needed for the steering, let me see if I can pick up a better picture on this side. Nope. I may have to wait till I get her up in the air totally to get you a really good view of that. I probably will. Here's the down view. See how close that steering is? If I turn, you can see the light space around it. It just, with the camera angle, it looks like it's touching or resting on it. It's not. This had to be adjusted down 1/2 inch because this joint allowed me 1/2 inch slide, or whatever you want to call it. So I put the bolt in it and gently tapped it so it would ride down the slot just a little bit. And it gave me what I needed to give me the extra that made me feel comfortable. The steering rod, okay, is 1/8 of an inch off of, see if I can get in here without getting cut, sharp edges, off of this rail right here, chassis rail. It's half the distance of what it had with the 4-cylinder in it. it moved over a little bit, and I had to do some massaging a little bit to keep a comfortable space in there. Now, to make this happen, I did the transmission and the mock-up first with the LS mock-up from Summit. Once the cross member was in, and I lost my temper one day, and I just cut the hell out of this. You can see where I had to punch this out an inch and reform it up there. I actually gained more room. This will blend in. This one's kind of square cut. I can taper it. I can do different things with it. I don't want to do anything with it until I got the seat here that'll set in there, so I can see how it all comes together. Again, I don't want to do something here then have to cut it out. I'd rather be able just to strip it and make a piece to just taper this back in versus having to cut it out again. So we'll wait till we get to the seats. I got to strip the door cards and everything out of the doors. I've been using the door cards for all the grinding and cutting I was doing to protect the glass. Got no place to store it at the time. The battery right there is going to be removed. That's going to be welded up solid. I'll get the plasma cutter up in there. Go to town. Starting next Saturday, I think it's next Saturday, I'll get my truck back, so I'll be back out at my son. I gotta start pulling parts off the parts car. The windshield's perfect, mine's broken. It's got a different style dash that my wife likes better than the one I've got came out of this car. So when the time comes, I'll have to lay them both on the workbench and let her pick one. This make a difference to me either way. One's gonna be easier to fix, the one in the parts car, but the one that came out of here can be repaired also. Just take a little longer. So that's how that goes. So once I had the cross members in, okay, I made the transmission cross member to keep the LS mock-up and the transmission in alignment where it belonged. I made the cross member and bolted the transmission mount on it. I supported the front of the transmission at the height it needed to be. Then I unbolted the LS and just lifted it out of the way, which allowed me to draw lines and trim off all these fancy angles and square it up and make this fit right. Okay? There's no way. The only mistake I made is right here. This bolt actually barely touching. I'm going to stick my flat tool down in there and bend that away. It doesn't need much. It's not going to move much. It's just something that's going to annoy me. You saw the headers being fabricated. I got to do some grinding and fabricating work on them yet a little bit and polish this all up. And then I'll get a hold of Jimmy to come over and just fire up the MIG, and he'll go to town. Because once he's done, I clean them up a little bit. I'm not worried about being perfectly clean because it's going to be wrapped right in here. Because I got the header heat right below the coil packs. I'm not sure if these will run hotter, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to wrap them. Plus, I think it'll look nice. By using the LS, 35 pounds, I had 2 bolts in it. I could walk out and lay it down in the car, slide the bolts on it, put the nuts on them, hold it up in the front, run the nut down, and the transmission sitting on the support would actually let the LS just hang out here. So I put several wood spacers underneath on the cross member to hold the thing level, so I wasn't getting this. So I had something stable to work off of. And then I dealt with the steering first, okay, to get my steering clearances in the racky, and that was a pain. Then we had to whack the holes in the fender wells for the type of headers I was using, which gave me, with the tires off, gave me more room to reach in there and work, which was a plus. Plus the fenders off, I'm not hanging across them, which is hard on my back. If you noticed, the mount is supposed to be clear up here. I used a piece of high strength tensile steel, 1/4 inch thick. It burned up 3 zip discs and 1 grinder. Took the bearings right out of it. It was my old favorite one. Anyway, I was able to put the perches in, the brackets, to clear the steering. And on this side, let me come around and show you. The starter right down in here, because right there is your mount. It was actually easier to bolt them in this way. I had to make them. If I couldn't make the drop on the plate low as I wanted it, so I had to shift it back. This one is shifted. Let's see if I can explain this. You got these 2 rails, okay? On the other side, that rail is in front of this one here, which allows me the starter room. Over here, it's behind it to allow the steering shaft. There's no easy way to touch that thing. Right here, it's got 3/4 of an inch below it, 1/2 inch between this part of the chassis rail and this. Okay, because this was actually articulated down slightly to give us some more room. And then up here along the chassis rail where it hugs it. See if I can get the camera right down in there. It still has its distance. Radiator will be sitting right about there once I get the spacers in it. This will be changed. I'm going to come out with a 90 and directly into this fitting, which is going to be altered because I can't have it turn up. It's got to turn out. I got a cure for that, I think. The alternator bracket, I'm working to get one that sits right here. Okay, people, and lines up with the belt, which runs in this groove, so the alternator should be hanging right here. That's another one of my swags. Scientific wild ass guess. I'm still hunting the bracket down I want. I think I found it last night on the internet. For every hour I spend out here working, I spend on average 2 hours in front of the computer. And that's not editing, because I usually shoot these, watch them, send them. That is hunting for parts. Hunting for affordable parts. Hunting for parts that can be fabricated and changed to work. So if I spend 4 hours out here, I got a 12-hour day. If I spend 7 or 8 hours out here, I got a 16-hour day. Because while my computer is doing the downloading and stuff, and I'm kind of watching my shoot it and send it videos, I'm hunting stuff down. We are dividing the work on the car, okay, people, in sections. Anything to do with the body work or anything is going to be shot and throw in a file for when the main body work starts, because I'm doing different things just to keep busy and keep the project moving forward. Most people don't do it. They'll do one thing at a time. pat themselves on the back, and then go buy some more parts and bolt them on, and the process repeats itself. Right now, like I told you, I'm working on spacers, alternator bracket, hose input neck. That's just right here. This is just side stuff that I can deal with. Okay, I'll get the header drops on, come off the collectors, come down to about here. I got to find a muffler, an exhaust system that'll work under this car, but I haven't been under the back of the car long enough to tell you what's going to work. I think I'm going to try it. I'm probably going to hate myself. Yeah, plus I got to change this neck right here. It has to articulate straight down. No big deal, they make a swivel for that. I just haven't found an affordable one that I like yet. Because you got to remember, this is a budget build. This isn't just buy it and bolt it together build. This is a sealant I put on here, it'll never rust again. I'm going to try see if I can get under the car on this gate. Now, so here's the chassis rails. There's your transmission pan. Your oil pan's even more shallow. There's a lot of support's been added. Here's your cross member. To finish this up, I got to put the lock nut on that. The torque converter bolts, and stick the starter on. Just not even get fancy with it, just hang it up there with the bolts so it's where it needs to be. I gotta tighten down the cross member, which I just noticed I hadn't tightened the bolts up yet. So in other words, I gotta double check myself, start up front. I'll go starter, torque converter bolts, tighten this up, bolt that up, and then we'll come into the back of the car. Here's a view of this side. And what we're going to be getting into shortly. I got to find a way to double support the rear so I can pull everything out and it's hanging out there, but I got extra safety measures in place. Here's the old lines. See, it's a brake line, fuel line, return line, and a line just to have a line, I guess, but it's all coming out. I've already got some parts coming in. I've got everything ordered for the rear end. I haven't pushed purchase yet because I want to see what I'm getting into with the rear end. I may need to change the parts I'm ordering or order more parts. Oh. So that's that side. I'm going to try get you a view on this side. Getting down this low and roll around in this rough asphalt driveway is about as much fun as a barrel of monkeys with baseball bats. Okay. So I got my linkage room here, okay. Thumbs up. There's your mount. We did the steering shaft first, and then we made the motor mounts to fit away from the steering shaft. I didn't want to put additional swivels and angles on the steering shaft. I wanted to keep it basic, the way it was designed. I got to pull I got a couple bolts to put back in here too. Use this to line it up, pull this open to put the bolts on it. That ought to be fun. And I'll just go back. But that's how it's all set up to this point, okay? I set the transmission and the engine together where I wanted it. Hung the cross member, bolted the mount to it. Blocked this transmission up. Then I could take the mock-up engine in and out as I worked with every spacing detail. It would have been a nightmare to swing that engine in and out constantly. Believe it or not, the engine went in extremely fast. Once I had it in position and had it tail shaft down over the car, I just lowered it in. And as we cranked the leveler up to bring the tail shaft of the transmission up, we kept lowering the engine down. And then we got in a really good lightning storm, which wasn't a bright idea to be standing out here with a metal lightning rod. So I just wrapped it with a tarp and a bungee cord and stepped away from it. I lost the video due to the fact that I had to take the camera and stick it in the garage. I didn't pay attention to it. I must have bumped it. The camera was facing the wall and not out towards the driveway where you could see, at least see what was going on. The first drop before the lightning really got bad, I had the motor mounts sitting 1 inch above the brackets, straight down drop, the way it was designed. And I had a temporary support under here, and then it started raining, and I worked as long as I could. And then when the lightning got really bad, I just threw a tarp around it, threw a bungee cord on it, and went in the garage. Back as a young man, I was probably crazy enough to work right through it, but can't wait. See, this black paint's got to come off. We're going to go to the back of the car. And I'm going to bring my monitor with me. My cell phone I'm using as a monitor so I can see what you see as I'm doing this. Except for like today, the monitor's on one end of the car and I'm underneath it. That didn't help any. Give me 1 minute here, people, and we're going under it for the first time. Filming the rear. The best one stand I got is one I got from my old laser level when I was flipping houses. Set kitchen cabinets and everything. Okay. Interesting. Gas tank comes out, springs come out, complete axle comes out. Got to do some work on the sway bar. That's going to be fun. I got the dampers up there, what they use for shocks over across the pond. I'm going to pull them off. There's no rust holes back here or anything, So what I want to do is to remove the gas tank and everything. The tank will go over there out of the way, or out back, away from the sparking and the arcing, because I got to hang some serious steel up in here and tie the front rail. You can see the cross members stop at the cross piece up there. See it? So what we're going to do is pick it up off of that and bring it right back here. I'm going to tie it together. Now, Lord Sanderson, I believe I'm saying that correctly, over in the UK, didn't like that, so he took cardboard and fabricated what he wanted to build. Then he made it out of metal and put them in there. It was quite impressive. It's a little different approach than what I would have done personally, okay? But it worked. I'm just looking at everything here with you. I got to get supports up somewhere near the front of those spring hangers to support the back of the car. I got to get supports on the front of the car and raise it up. I got to figure out how to get maximum strength in here. I'll run a temporary jack underneath the center of this till it comes out. It's a stout little car, people. It really is. And all this stuff will be laying in the garage floor, except for the tank. We'll probably pull the sending unit out and look inside it with my endoscope. It's hard to tell. It doesn't look bad on the outside, but that does not give you any inkling of what it is on the inside. I do know it has leaded gas in it. I remember that smell. Ooh, the old hot rod days on Saturday evening at the service station in the bays, working on hot rods. This will all be re-undercoated as we go. Right now it's undercoated up into that cross piece in the tunnel and everything. When the body work and everything is completed, I'll do the outer sides and then start right here and come back as I'm working. There's going to be a lot of parts stacked up out here. I'll tell you that right now. These I got new bushings for the springs. The springs look good. They really do. They're not compressed down. They don't appear to be cracked, broken, or missing anything. That doesn't mean anything till we get them out of the car and take a wire wheel to them, get the rust and the crud off of them, and get a really close inspection. Okay, just the way it is. That's a view of everything. Now I've toward the front. Let's see if I can get a better view. Bring the monitor closer back and see it. Oh yeah. You can see how I got the engine as low as I can go, and I tucked everything up. Bill, a car builder in Texas, who's building one with a 727 torque flight and a Mopar engine with a 9-inch Ford in the back, doing some really interesting things with his, saw my engine sitting on the crane over here and told me that I'd better stop and check the oil pan clearance, because it was 6 inches deeper than this one. It would have been a fail. I would have hated to have to hang that thing there and change the oil pan and all that stuff while it was swinging on a chain. You know what I'm saying? Well, people, that's about what we're coming down with here. Okay. I want to get her up on all the way up on the stands with good ground clearance. One, so I can roll around and work, and two, I can get a lot better video, especially in the front part of this build, because I'm going to wrap up a few things up front, and then, because I thought I was going to stop behind the seats, that's where that cross member is, and then we're going to start working from there to the rear back here. We'll be doing seam sealing, we'll be doing some undercoating, redoing springs, polyurethane bushings. We've got to hang the GM posi unit in here. It's just a whole menagerie of crap. No other way of putting it. But I got to get all this out, so I got to find a way to support the car safely. And I'm thinking about coming up there right underneath the side body mounts. I got some concrete blocks over there that you got to use them with the holes vertical. If you do them horizontal, you're losing the strength of the block. So I'm going to use those under the body in front of the shackle mounts, and then I will have the, what am I going to say, the jack stands under the cross member right there, plus I'll have the supports in the front. So basically the back half of the car will have two supports in it, plus a temporary underneath the rear end, because once the weight comes out, there's no issues to be under it. I got to get this thing up here in a few minutes. There's the air jack right there in the driveway. Pop the button, that thing blows up. It'll bounce this car up off the ground about 2 feet. There's one that's even taller. My son says he's going to buy that one too. Now, so good, buy him so Dad can borrow them. We come down to a verdict yesterday, people. This car will be sold sometime in the spring, after I get it done this fall, winter, and early spring. Every year my wife does charity work in memory of our youngest son, and she says I get the money. She's keeping receipts on all this stuff, does all my tax. I get all my investment money back, and the profit goes to her charity in the name of our youngest son, the work she does. So that's what's going to happen. I've already got another MG lined up for my personal pleasure. It's going to go with a 6.0 automatic. I'm going to do some insane things to that car. And plus, that one has to have a roll bar if I keep it. My wife doesn't trust me to behave. I don't know why. Anyway, people, that's what we got going on. I hope you're enjoying the build as it's going forward. Those were the issues we had to overcome. I love the styrofoam. It's the best thing on your knees when you're getting up and down. I got Jimmy's stuff set up here. Until we get the editing program tweaked and get it working the way I want it, we're not going to be doing any cutting or grinding on camera. I've had a couple complaints on it because the sound levels are bouncing, which is understandable. I've never thought about it. I thought about the compressor, so I quit using the compressor, but I never thought about that. So as soon as this new program comes on, I can go and edit this, actually do editing and lower the sound levels when the grinders and stuff are running. I'm going to have to figure out my height here. But she's sitting pretty good. Well, she's sitting level on the skates, and she's sitting level to where she's going to be. The verdict is out on the exhaust. because of her height, it'd be nice to put a nice side pipe on here. Turn it in. See if I can't get like an 8.5 or a 9-inch muffler. Bring the thing over, take it back. I gotta drill it and put in a O2 sensor. Elbow it over, a short elbow, throw on the muffler, and right into the side pipes. That way I don't have that droning sound. Interesting. Thank you. New shop clock. We'll have to get it hung up here. People, what I'm going to say is like, subscribe, leave a comment, and we're going to get busy on getting the car set up and prepped. I'll be back later with a video underneath the car.